You know it is, yeah. So I just wanted to ask, how did you come to recognize that the 5 anchors of servant leadership that you've been talking about are the baseline of it? Like, what kind of processes made you realize that this is what servant leadership boils down to?
What a great question. So how I came up with the 5 pieces, they're the 5 key pieces that I learned in different organizations under different leaders, right? So it's a little bit of a process from TELUS, a little bit of a process from Champs, a little bit of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, a little Fusion Homes. So where I learned all those things and where they worked and drove results, I started to build on those. And then I realized they needed to grow in a chronological order because you got to do one after the other. And if you don't do all 5, they drop. They're kind of intertwined. And then the tie to servant leadership was, I mean, this is the way I've always led. And when I've observed other leaders, you know, organizations, they love data. Okay, even though we don't always train our leaders effectively, we love data. And they'll do everything from departmental employee engagement to overall churn and turnover to business results. And I found the leaders who perform these behaviors the best that were servant in nature, because I've been a big fan of servant leadership, reading books, listening to speakers. And again, that gap was no one tells you how to do it. All the people who did those 5 steps really well that I built in the book were servant leaders. And I was like, wait a second, if I can draw up this process that can be transferred, and I have someone who believes in taking care of their employees first to drive their business, have we not just put a process behind servant leadership by observing all those people in those great workspaces where it's worked? Bob Hunter, who was my boss at Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, Sarah, wouldn't tell you he's a servant leader. He wouldn't define himself that way. He's just Bob. But Bob was the reason I put the personal development strategy in place, and I talk about it in the book. Bob didn't sit me down with a form that said, here's a PDS. I saw one at TELUS that was called a PDP, and so the acronym was there. But Bob's the one who taught me the behavior of, okay, kid, you want to go here? You don't know half the shit you think you know, pardon my language. And here's how I'm going to close those gaps, and I'm not promising you anything. But if the opportunity shows up, at least you'll be considered versus a candidate outside. And so when you put those great leaders in what they did, and then you can say, okay, how do I put that down on paper and digitally that I could share with other people so they can experience Bob? That's where I came together with my own process. And that's why I'm adamant whenever I do these, I write about it in the book. This is in my intellectual property. Like, I've learned all these skills from other people. I've just been like, Chris was awesome. I thought it was very authentic to say, hey, when I started, I wasn't very good. When I started, I was terrible as a manager. Like, I just was. And I just had people call out my crap. But they invested in me and taught me how to fix it. And so, long-winded answer, Sarah, to your question is, I took all those pieces in all those organizations. I figured, how do I transfer it? And I put it into a process. I put it into a training, and I put it into a book.
We've talked a lot about everybody's leadership journey.